It's now official. Mercedes has just announced that Max Verstappen will be driving for Mercedes-AMG Petronas next season, alongside George Russell. Want to know how much he's getting paid? Wondering who'll be the #1 driver? Stick around till the end, because this video is made for you. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. Max Verstappen's move to Mercedes has detonated like a bomb inside the Formula One world, rewriting the balance of power and turning the championship landscape on its head. This stunning development, confirmed by multiple high-level insiders, has flipped the sport into a frenzy. Fans, commentators, team members, and rivals alike are still trying to process the scale of what has just happened. One of the most dominant drivers in modern racing, the Dutchman has now aligned himself with the Silver Arrows in a contract so immense, so audacious, that it instantly became one of the most staggering agreements in motorsport history. He's not just switching teams, he's detonating the old order, reshaping rivalries, and placing himself at the center of a new empire. At over $110 million per year, excluding bonuses, Verstappen's deal eclipses anything seen before in the paddock. Beyond the already jaw-dropping base compensation, the agreement includes massive performance incentives linked to qualifying achievements, race outcomes, and championship positions, bonuses that could easily push his earnings even higher. What's more, personal sponsorship arrangements tied directly to his name, brokered with fresh partners specifically entering the Mercedes ecosystem because of Max's worldwide influence, ensure that his impact stretches far beyond the track. This is more than a contract, it's a seismic shift in F1's commercial, athletic, and political landscape. This entire chain of events was set in motion far from the circuits and pit lanes. The game-changer was a private, off-the-grid rendezvous between Verstappen and Toto Wolff aboard a discreet superyacht anchored near Sardinia. Away from the cameras, without the noise of the media, the two figures reportedly held marathon-level discussions lasting hours. Witnesses claimed the atmosphere was intense, calculated, and brimming with strategic energy. No PR team, no leaks, just two titans shaping the next chapter of racing history. The meeting wasn't just exploratory, it became a turning point. According to sources close to the situation, Verstappen arrived skeptical but left convinced. The reasons? Control. Priority. Clarity. After growing disillusioned with the internal dynamics at Red Bull, where ongoing clashes with management figures over development philosophy and team politics had drained him emotionally, Verstappen was ready for a revolution. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. Wolff's pitch wasn't just persuasive, it was bulletproof. Included in the final paperwork is a formal clause granting Verstappen full leadership status within the team, a clear declaration that all tactical decisions, development paths, and competitive focus will orbit around him. This isn't a shared role. This is a defined command structure. George Russell, despite his immense skill and rising profile, will not have the upper hand. The hierarchy is unambiguous. For Max, who had begun to feel like a passenger in Red Bull's internal tug-of-war, this level of autonomy and respect was irresistible. Mercedes didn't just offer him a car, they gave him a throne. The reaction across the fanbase has bordered on hysteria. Every platform lit up like wildfire. Clips, memes, theories, predictions, every thread exploded. No fan base was spared. Red Bull loyalists voiced outrage and heartbreak. Mercedes supporters celebrated like champions before a single lap was run. Even neutral spectators were thrown into a state of shock. Search trends skyrocketed. Merchandise pre-orders surged. Video views and streams smashed records. People weren't just talking, they were living and breathing this storyline, injecting it into every corner of the digital space. Even veteran reporters were blindsided, admitting they'd underestimated the volatility brewing behind closed doors. Inside Red Bull, the impact has been devastating. The morale collapse is palpable. Whispered reports suggest high-ranking staff are reconsidering their futures. Technical leaders once thought immovable are now rumored to be weighing options, some possibly following Verstappen to his new fortress. The departure has left a power vacuum that no single driver appears capable of filling. Replacement candidates are being floated, from rising talents to aging veterans, but none come close to the presence Verstappen brought. This wasn't just about results, it was about identity. The team, once built around his fire and confidence, is now searching for direction in a post-Verstappen reality. Mercedes, meanwhile, is undergoing a metamorphosis. Engineers are already redesigning the 2026 Challenger to match Verstappen's aggressive style, Precision under braking, surgical cornering, high-speed adaptability. Every tweak, every decision, every bolt turned is now viewed through the lens of maximizing his potential. Meetings have intensified. Data is being reshaped. Simulators are working overtime. He's not joining a system, he's becoming the system. The machine is being sculpted around his feedback, his instincts, his approach to the edge. Russell's position has shifted dramatically. Once heralded as the long-term star, he now finds himself in a supporting role, with all eyes watching to see how he responds. Publicly, he may smile and play the team card. Privately, there's no doubt that this sudden reshuffling stings. It changes his trajectory. It forces him into a pressure cooker where every move will be compared, every mistake magnified. Their dynamic, two alpha drivers in one garage, will be under constant scrutiny. Will it spark brilliance or ignite chaos? Will they push each other to greatness or drag the team into tension? The echoes of Hamilton versus Rosberg are impossible to ignore, and Wolff knows it. Ferrari, watching from afar, is also feeling the aftershocks. Hamilton, now dressed in red, might be wondering if he jumped too soon. Verstappen, in silver, is reclaiming the attention and control that Lewis once commanded. It's a strange full-circle moment, a transfer of power not just in teams, but in narrative dominance. Hamilton may have lit the fuse, but Max has exploded the powder keg. Subscribe to stay informed about the latest Formula One news. Sponsors, broadcasters, and stakeholders are capitalizing with speed. Broadcast deals are being renegotiated. Commercial partners are flooding in. Major corporations previously hesitant to invest in Formula One are now lining up to attach their brand to the super team configuration. The Verstappen-Mercedes alliance is not just fast, it's bankable, global, and potentially era-defining. And Verstappen himself? Focused like never before. Sharper, more motivated, and ready to redefine what dominance looks like. He's done it once. Now he wants to do it again, under different colors, different machinery, and against different odds. This isn't just a transfer. It's a statement, a warning, a mission. And the world will be watching every second of it. Whispers from inside the paddock reveal that Max Verstappen's main demand during private negotiations with Mercedes had nothing to do with money, duration, or political clout. His priority was far more personal, even emotional. What he truly wanted was to retain the car number that has defined his era of supremacy, number 1. That digit has become his signature, a psychological banner of total control over the grid, a symbol of dominance, intimidation, and legacy. For Max, it's not just a number. It's identity, power, territory. And when he expressed this to Toto Wolff, the response, reportedly, was as bold as it was immediate. Without pausing, Toto is said to have replied, "You won't just carry number 1, you'll command a machine built around you. This isn't about fitting into a system. This is about us creating an empire with you at its core." Behind the scenes at Brackley, a seismic shift was already underway. Even before formal signatures, the factory had pivoted. The mission was no longer building a car for a team, it was about constructing a weapon tailored for one individual. Engineers and data analysts were poring over Verstappen's telemetry, not as reference points, but as the foundation itself. The way he attacks the throttle, the way he dances on the edge of oversteer without hesitation, his almost telepathic ability to keep the car balanced while unleashing raw aggression. Every detail was dissected, digitized, and fed into the simulators. Over 300 hours of virtual testing were invested solely in recreating his unique behavior behind the wheel. Engineers weren't just fine-tuning settings, they were reinventing how they interpret feedback, studying every microsecond of Verstappen's inputs from the past 3 seasons and pairing that data with wind tunnel results to understand how to make the car move exactly the way he wants it to. The effort wasn't just mechanical, it was philosophical. One lead technician described the process as rewriting the soul of the car. Not to make it quick, to make it his. Every aerodynamic contour, every suspension flex point, every gear ratio, it's all shifting to reflect the instincts of a driver who doesn't adapt to the car, but demands the car becomes an extension of his instincts. Internal sources claim that steering setups never before seen in F1 are being explored, aimed at replicating Verstappen's surgical precision through high-speed bends. Even the torque mapping is being reprogrammed to deliver power in the exact rhythm that matches his muscle memory from years of domination. His Red Bull data wasn't just reviewed, it became scripture. Vibrations through the chassis, engine tone under stress, even the weight distribution under trail braking. Every sensation Max is familiar with is being recreated, frame by frame, moment by moment. This goes beyond performance. It's cultural. Mercedes, a team once revered for its calculated order and structure, has flipped into a high-speed transformation zone. Departments are breaking down barriers, working fluidly, not in isolation but in unison. They are no longer asking, what's the fastest solution? They're asking, what would Max feel right? Ergonomics are being molded around his posture, his muscle contractions, even his breathing cadence during qualifying push laps. Data previously used in experimental test sessions is now part of the car's spiritual blueprint. Competitors are watching nervously. Red Bull, caught off guard by the scale of Mercedes' internal reinvention, has begun revisiting their own assumptions. One insider admitted, "We thought we understood Max's peak. We didn't think anyone else could match what we created for him." But they're not trying to match it. They're going beyond it. This isn't a standard transfer. This is an evolution, both technological and human. Veterans at Mercedes who served through Hamilton's reign are recognizing the magnitude of this change. Where Lewis mastered the art of preservation and tactical genius, Max brings relentless pressure and pure instinct. This next machine won't be a balance of compromise. It will be a mirror to a mindset that doesn't accept limits. Mercedes isn't onboarding a champion. They're surrendering to a force. They're not just upgrading their car, they're transforming their identity to align with the pulse of a driver who sees no boundaries, only possibilities. And if this grand experiment succeeds, the rest of the grid won't be chasing a car or a team anymore. They'll be chasing the personification of chaos engineered into carbon, steel, and fury. They won't be competing with a strategy. They'll be trying to outdrive a philosophy made flesh. What was initially intended as a controlled and forward-looking strategy for Mercedes quickly unraveled into a storm of internal conflict, raw emotion, and power dynamics spiraling out of control. As soon as word spread that Max Verstappen would be joining the team, the very ground beneath Brackley seemed to shift. But no tremor hit harder than the one that shook George Russell. For him, the news didn't just sting, it cut to the bone. Since Lewis Hamilton's exit, Russell had stepped into the void, pouring his energy, loyalty, and belief into becoming the face of the team's future. To him, this wasn't simply a teammate announcement. It was a cold, strategic move that sidelined his ambitions and, worse, undermined his sacrifices. Just moments before the story hit the media, Toto Wolff reached out with what was supposed to be a quick, respectful call. But what happened during that exchange set off a shockwave that would echo through every corridor of the Mercedes camp. As soon as the name Max was uttered, Russell reportedly froze, disbelief tightening every muscle in his face. The silence on his end was long, heavy, and loaded. Then came the eruption. Without holding back, he launched into Wolff with the fury of someone who felt blindsided. According to those who were briefed afterward, his voice cracked with anger and frustration as he demanded to know why, after committing his career to the team, he was now being eclipsed by someone brought in from the outside. Russell is said to have challenged Toto directly, questioning the values the team supposedly stood for. "I've given this everything since Lewis left," he reportedly snapped. "And now I'm being shoved aside just to make room for someone who's already dominated the grid. What are you trying to tell me? That I was just a placeholder?" The outburst caught Wolff completely off guard. Normally composed, calm under fire, and known for handling egos like a conductor guiding an orchestra, Toto was now scrambling. He kept repeating phrases like "You're still a core part of our vision, and we need both of you to lead us forward," but the words weren't landing. George had already made up his mind. This wasn't collaboration, this was betrayal. Eyewitnesses to the fallout described Toto as visibly shaken once the call ended. It didn't conclude with an understanding, or even an agreement to disagree. It ended with a brutal final line. "So I'm just Max's insurance policy now? Perfect. Just remember this when everything blows up." And then he hung up. The tension didn't stop with that conversation. The entire team could feel the temperature drop as Russell returned to the simulator center, his demeanor cold, his presence icy. People who usually joked with him gave him space. Mechanics avoided eye contact. Analysts whispered behind closed doors. It wasn't just disappointment, they sensed something deeper, a feeling of betrayal wrapped in bitterness. Russell didn't show up to the media availability he had scheduled. He skipped meetings he never misses. He was silent in group chats, absent in technical briefings, and cold during pit wall simulations. When he did speak, his tone was clipped and sharp. There were no smiles, no camaraderie, only the haunting look of someone questioning everything. To those who know him well, this wasn't a tantrum, it was heartbreak masked as defiance. From George's perspective, he had taken every right step. He joined Mercedes with patience. He absorbed the tough seasons. He played the long game while the car underperformed, always believing that his day would come. That he would be the driver they built around. That this would be his team. But just as the wind seemed to be shifting, the leadership pivoted towards someone else. Not just anyone, but the reigning titan of the sport. And for Russell, that move said one thing: we don't think you're enough. Meanwhile, Verstappen's arrival casts a long and inescapable shadow. He isn't just another teammate. He's a presence that dominates every garage he walks into. His results speak louder than words, and his aura can dwarf even the most promising of talents. Russell knows this. He understands the spotlight is about to shift, and he can feel it slipping already. But what makes this sting worse is the silence. The lack of a fight for him. The sense that the people he trusted most didn't even hesitate. Toto now faces a nightmare scenario. In gaining the most dominant driver in recent history, he risks fracturing the very foundation of harmony that held the team together during turbulent seasons. Internally, some fear the rift may be unfixable. Engineers are whispering about tension during simulator crossover sessions. Communication lags between garages. Performance staff are split. The cracks are forming not just on the racetrack, but in the culture Mercedes took years to cultivate. Fans are buzzing. Pundits are predicting fireworks. And inside the team, the air is thick with anticipation, suspicion, and quiet resentment. What's coming isn't just a battle for podiums, it's a Cold War playing out in plain sight. George Russell may wear the same colors as Max Verstappen, but under the surface, a storm is brewing. Every lap, every strategy call, every qualifying duel will be drenched in unspoken conflict. Russell won't forget how this went down. He won't forget the feeling of being pushed aside. And he certainly won't forget who made the decision. Whether that turns into an explosive rivalry or the fiercest fight of his life remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, he's no longer just racing for wins. He's racing to prove he should never have been doubted. Behind the scenes at Brackley, an undeniable transformation is unfolding. Quiet yet powerful, subtle but seismic. The signs began to emerge in barely noticeable ways. Technicians who had long been staples of George Russell's support team were spotted methodically clearing out specific components from the simulator area once considered his personal domain. Over the course of days, intricate modifications were introduced: new interface panels, unfamiliar sensor arrays, updated calibration devices. Whispers among staff hinted at one truth becoming increasingly clear: this wasn't maintenance. This was preparation for someone new. Someone dominant. Someone who demands absolute control. All arrows point to Max Verstappen. There's a hush inside Mercedes HQ, but within that silence lies thunder. Multiple engineers with long-standing ties to George have been redirected to a newly established high-level program. Internally, it's referred to in vague, coded language. What's known is that its hierarchy bypasses the traditional chain of command. Sources close to the operation say this task force answers directly to Max himself. Already, his influence is being woven into the very DNA of Mercedes' operational philosophy. His insights on chassis behavior, tire management logic, and race strategy protocols are not merely being considered, they're being adopted as the new baseline. What used to be George's turf is rapidly becoming Max's empire. And that's not all. There's growing chatter throughout the paddock that key members of Red Bull's backroom crew, individuals who played instrumental roles in Max's rise, have been recruited under veiled consultancy arrangements. Legal teams, NDAs, and third-party contracts cloak the transition in secrecy, but the knowledge transfer is unmistakable. From aerodynamic philosophies to simulator feedback systems, elements of Milton Keynes are being stealthily injected into the core of Mercedes' infrastructure. It's a quiet revolution, no headlines, no tweets, just a methodical assimilation driven by an unrelenting pursuit of dominance. Online communities are ablaze. Die-hard fans are split, arguing in threads that stretch into the thousands of comments. Some claim this is the masterstroke that will launch Mercedes into an unstoppable era. Others fear that such a radical shift may spark internal conflict. The partnership between Toto Wolff and Verstappen is being dissected from every angle. Can two such strong-willed figures genuinely align, or is a future clash inevitable? Emotions are raw. Speculation is running wild. A growing faction of supporters sees this as George being systematically edged out, politely, quietly, but unmistakably. Close associates of Max are only adding fuel to the fire. One long-trusted friend, deeply embedded in his private circle, confided under strict anonymity that this move was never about switching teams, it was about seizing command. He was done waiting, the source said. He played the part at Red Bull. But now he writes the script. Toto didn't just offer a drive, he offered control. Max isn't looking to share. He's looking to lead. Mercedes is not just making room for Verstappen. They are reshaping the foundation around him. Engineers are adapting processes to his exact preferences, from throttle mapping to pit stop sequencing. The way data flows within the team is being restructured to prioritize his insights. Even the energy within the factory has shifted. A sense of purpose, of change, pulses through the corridors. There's no official statement, no grand reveal, but everyone within the operation knows. The spotlight is no longer divided. George, outwardly calm and diplomatic, is maintaining appearances. But those watching closely can see the signs. Certain advisors have been reassigned. Sim sessions once dominated by his presence now have new overseers. Behind closed doors, there's a scramble to reassert influence. Some believe Russell is trying to reposition himself as an indispensable asset. Yet the growing narrative, whispered in corners and hinted in encrypted messages, is hard to ignore. He's being gradually displaced. This isn't about rivalry. It's about evolution. Verstappen's transition to Mercedes is unfolding like a strategic masterclass. Every move is calculated. Every decision is precise. Behind the facade of normalcy, a new power structure is taking hold. No declarations, no interviews, just actions. The pit crews know it. The engineers feel it. Even rival garages are beginning to sense the shift. Something monumental is underway. Once Max finally straps into the car, fully integrated and fully empowered, the entire paddock may need to recalibrate. Because what's coming isn't just a challenge to the old order, it's a storm, and Max Verstappen is the eye. The mind games have intensified beyond belief, reaching every corner of the racing world. Tensions are boiling as whispers swirl about Red Bull launching a formal probe into potential irregularities tied to the rumored communications between Max Verstappen and Mercedes. Legal advisors within the Austrian squad are reportedly dissecting the fine print of Verstappen's exit options, focusing on whether a technicality might have been exploited, or outright ignored, during discreet conversations with the Brackley outfit. While nothing has been confirmed on the record, insiders are interpreting this as an unmistakable shot across the bow. Red Bull seems determined to send a message, not just to Max, but to anyone plotting a seismic shakeup of the current status quo. On the other end of the storm, Lewis Hamilton has managed to ignite a media wildfire with a single line. During a high-profile Ferrari event in Italy, when questioned about the rumor mill linking Verstappen to Mercedes, Hamilton's reaction was minimal but devastatingly effective. Flashing a knowing grin, he simply said, "Toto always plays to win." That brief remark has unleashed a torrent of speculation across every digital platform imaginable. The tone, the smile, the silence before the punchline, it was all pure theater, and fans around the globe are obsessing over every micro-expression, treating it like a coded message in an unfolding strategic masterpiece. Online spaces have descended into pure chaos. Platforms are overflowing with edits, animations, imagined scenarios, fan theories, and endless debate. The term #MaxSeeds has exploded, crashing through trending charts on X, TikTok, YouTube, and beyond. AI-generated images of Verstappen wearing Mercedes gear are going viral, while mock interviews and fantasy simulations are drawing millions of views within hours. Everyone is trying to predict the future, from casual spectators to veteran journalists, as uncertainty consumes the fanbase. Each new photo, statement, and social interaction is fueling the narrative, driving engagement to a fever pitch. What was once unthinkable is now being treated as inevitable by some corners of the motorsport community. Verstappen, the golden child of Red Bull, potentially walking away to join their fiercest rival? A year ago, such an idea would have seemed absurd. Today, it feels like the most important storyline in Formula One. Behind the scenes, power brokers and financial titans are already evaluating the impact such a switch could have on market dynamics, sponsorship portfolios, broadcast ratings, and the sport's long-term narrative arc. This isn't just about competition anymore. This is about legacy, identity, and influence on a global scale. Toto Wolff, the architect of Mercedes' golden era, is rumored to be pulling strings with unmatched precision. Meetings in private boardrooms, encrypted messages, and strategic overtures are all reportedly in play. Wolff is no stranger to high-stakes maneuvering, and those close to the situation claim he's mobilizing every asset at his disposal to make this happen. It's not about revenge, nor is it simply a reaction to past defeats. It's a calculated mission to reclaim the throne and secure the team's future in a sport undergoing tectonic change. Red Bull's legal maneuver, some say, may not even be about enforcement. Instead, it might be psychological, a chess move designed to spook the opposition and buy time. Yet that strategy could unravel quickly if Verstappen perceives it as controlling or hostile. Max, fiercely independent and known for trusting his instincts over loyalty, may interpret this legal escalation as a sign that his current team no longer views him as an equal partner but as a risk to be managed. And once that perception shifts, it's almost impossible to put the genie back in the bottle. Elsewhere, Hamilton's move to Ferrari, a headline that should have dominated the sport for months, is now being eclipsed by something even more explosive. The mere suggestion that Max could line up alongside Lewis is reshaping the entire conversation. Two titans, each with their own fan base, philosophy, and fire, possibly sharing a garage? The emotional weight of that scenario is staggering. The clashes, the mind games, the dynamic within the team, it's being imagined as both a dream and a disaster. No matter how you frame it, the drama would be relentless, and the sport would never be the same. Every camp is watching closely. Executives are crunching numbers, rivals are revising strategies, and sponsors are bracing for aftershocks. Teams like Ferrari and McLaren, who've been clawing their way back into contention, might suddenly find themselves overshadowed by a narrative so colossal it warps the entire ecosystem around it. Former drivers are chiming in, fueling the fire with thinly veiled warnings or subtle nods of approval. The energy around the paddock is electric, as if everyone knows something massive is coming but no one knows exactly when, or how, it will detonate. Speculation is now bleeding into every aspect of the sport. There's talk that Verstappen has already explored Mercedes facilities, met with key engineers, or even tested simulation equipment under confidentiality agreements. Others whisper that internal divisions at Red Bull, particularly the tension between senior management and racing operations, have weakened the bond between Max and the organization that built his dynasty. If true, it means the very foundation that once seemed unshakable may already be cracking. Among fans, the emotional split is impossible to ignore. Loyal Red Bull supporters feel betrayed, some accusing Verstappen of turning his back on the team that elevated him to superstardom. Others argue he's merely pursuing greatness, refusing to be boxed into a single legacy. Hamilton loyalists are divided too. Some see Max as an interloper, while others relish the thought of the two legends uniting to dominate once more. The debates are fiery, emotional, and deeply personal. This isn't just about motorsport anymore. It's about identity, pride, and the future of the sport we love. Each passing day adds more fuel. A social media like from a team principal, a cryptic emoji from a driver, an awkward silence during an interview, all of it is being interpreted through the lens of this swirling storm. The psychological toll is visible. Team bosses look more guarded, engineers more tight-lipped, PR teams more aggressive in protecting their narratives. This isn't a rumor anymore. It's a battle of influence, perception, and control, unfolding in real time, across platforms, across continents. No matter what happens, Formula One has entered a new era. The power plays, the silent negotiations, the unspoken alliances, they've elevated the sport beyond anything we've seen before. Whether Verstappen stays or goes, whether the legal threats escalate or evaporate, whether Mercedes pulls off a coup or Red Bull locks down their star, the wheels are in motion. The mind games are no longer whispers behind the curtain. They're the main act, playing out in front of millions, with every second bringing us closer to a revelation that could redefine everything. Max Verstappen, the unstoppable juggernaut of modern Formula One, is set to unleash a tidal wave of chaos as he steps into the heart of Mercedes, not as a guest, but as the new ruler of the empire. His arrival isn't quiet. It isn't polite. It's a full-blown invasion, a dramatic takeover driven by record-shattering figures, backroom deals that stretch the limits of team politics, and a machinery overhaul so tailored it could bear his name. This is not a negotiation. This is domination. And the tremors are already being felt across the grid. The car isn't being adjusted, it's being forged piece by piece to match Verstappen's precise style. No compromise. No middle ground. The chassis, suspension, balance, steering feedback, energy mapping, tire strategy. Every component is being molded to satisfy his pursuit of unfiltered control. Mercedes engineers, once focused on symmetry between drivers, have now shifted their allegiance entirely, transforming every department into a Verstappen production line. It's not a team adapting to a driver. It's an entire organization bending to the will of a single force. Toto Wolff has pulled the trigger on what many are calling the boldest, most dangerous move in recent memory. The same man who once stood nose-to-nose with Verstappen in a title war is now handing him the keys to the kingdom. It's not just a signature on paper, it's power, influence, and decision-making privileges rarely granted to any driver in the sport's history. Verstappen isn't arriving as an employee, he's entering as a sovereign. And the implications are enormous. From technical briefings to hiring decisions, Verstappen's fingerprints are already all over the operation. Meanwhile, within the garage walls, a storm is brewing. George Russell, the once celebrated prodigy marked as Mercedes' future, now finds himself displaced. He's no longer the headline. He's the footnote. The tension in his body language, the shift in his tone, the frost in his interactions. Every sign points to a man wrestling with betrayal. He's being asked to serve in a system now revolving around someone else. And the pressure cooker is heating. He can feel the eyes shifting. The balance of power is no longer shared, it's been handed to his rival. The question isn't if he'll retaliate. It's when. Technicians who once celebrated his telemetry breakthroughs are now prioritizing Verstappen's comfort. Strategists who plotted his long-term arc are recalculating around someone new. The vibe inside the factory is unstable, filled with awe, fear, ambition, resentment. Every whispered conversation behind the pit wall, every subtle tweak in the setup, every reshuffle of responsibilities, it's all feeding into a narrative that can only end in fireworks. The other teams aren't ignoring this. Red Bull is in freefall behind closed doors. Christian Horner, who built a dynasty around Max, has just lost the cornerstone of his empire. The sense of betrayal runs deep. And worse, Verstappen walks away with insights into Red Bull's inner workings. Technical, tactical, psychological. Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, even Alpine. They're all scrambling, realigning, rethinking their trajectories. Because when the strongest driver walks into the most resource-rich environment and is given unrestricted control, the entire ecosystem shifts violently. This is no routine transition. It's not about new colors on a race suit or a different seat position in a simulator. This is a full-spectrum upheaval. Social media is exploding. Factions are forming. Debates rage through the paddock. Pundits throw predictions like confetti, yet no one can say for sure what's coming. Fans are divided. Some are thrilled by the idea of Verstappen commanding a new empire. Others are terrified of the storm it's about to unleash. Everywhere you look, on forums, in interviews, across broadcasts, the only thing people talk about is what will happen when the gloves come off and the race begins. What happens when George Russell decides silence is no longer an option? What if he refuses to fade quietly into the shadows? Two elite drivers, both fast, both ruthless, both hungry, locked in a high-speed chess match, with the entire team as the board. Tensions won't stay buried. Friction won't go unnoticed. Sooner or later, it will explode. Whether it's during a qualifying session, a pit lane face-off, or a radio message laced with defiance, something is going to ignite. This is Formula One stripped bare. No filters, no diplomacy, just raw ambition, unrelenting pressure, and gladiators in carbon fiber suits. The grid won't sleep. The paddock won't relax. The entire sport is bracing for a year that could shatter precedents and rewrite the laws of team dynamics. Verstappen hasn't just changed teams. He's lit a fuse that nobody knows how to contain. The world is watching. The countdown has started. The moment the lights go out, the past dies and the battle begins. Nothing will be the same again.